Alright, this is the video that you're going to need in order to fill out your economy handout that's in your binder. It should be on page 17. If you don't have page 17 of your binder with you, you can do one of two things. You can write it down on a separate sheet of notebook paper and then transfer that information into your binder, or you can copy off page 17 from Edmodo. So let's get started. Now remember, if it goes too fast, this is a video, so you can stop it so that you'll have time to write down the information. Alright, the first thing that you want to ask is, what is economy? Economy is the way a country uses its money and resources, such as workers and land, to produce, buy, and sell goods and services. Most of the time, a country's economy depends on its development. So what is development? Development is basically how rich or poor a country is. There are a few factors that go into determining a country's economic development. Life expectancy, which is the amount in years that a person can expect to live when they are born. Gross domestic product. Sometimes you'll hear this referred to as the GDP of a country. The gross domestic product is the total amount in dollars of products a country can produce in 1 year. So that includes the production of foods and goods, services, profits from trade and overseas business, and then all the money that's earned in a country by its workers. There's two different ways that you'll actually see the GDP. One is the total, which is generally a large number, or you might see it per capita, which means the amount per person. And this, of course, is going to be a smaller number. The next one is literacy rate. Literacy is the ability to read and write. So the literacy rate of a country is the percentage of people in that country that can read and write. The next one is the type of industry. There's several different types of industry, and we're going to talk a little bit about each of them. Types of industry are basically just areas of economic activity. So agriculture is the first type of industry. It's also called the primary industry. And that is where all they do is take a natural resource from the earth. So that could be farming, or it could be mining, or it could be oil or petroleum. The second type of industry is manufacturing. It's also called secondary industry because you're taking that natural resource and you're making a product out of it. So for instance, the farmer would send the crops to a factory to be made into another product. For instance, potatoes would be sent to the Frito-Lay factory to be made into potato chips. In the same way, the resources that are mined can be turned into metals, which would be sent to an auto industry like Volkswagen or Chevy, and they would make a car out of it. And then, of course, the oil would be sent to a refinery, and they would make gas and other petroleum goods out of it. So those are secondary industries. The next type of industry is retail. And that's where they take those products that were made in the manufacturing stage and they sell them in the retail market. This is also called tertiary industry. So those foods that were made at the factory would then be sent to the grocery stores and they would be sold on the shelf. The cars that were made at the auto at the auto factory would then be sent to a car dealership, and the gas would be sent to a gas station. The next type of industry is wholesale. Now, wholesale is the sale of goods to anyone other than a standard consumer. So if you go to Costco or you go to Sam's, you can't just walk in and purchase an item. You have to be a member, or you have to pay dues and things like that when it comes to wholesale. The last type of industry is research, and that's also called quaternary. Basically, what they do is they gather the information for all the other industries. So they may take a poll, or they may do some research in a lab, or they may gather things together and combine ideas and things like that. But that's the research industry. Now, classifications of development. The first one we have is developed. So they take all of those things, the literacy rate, the types of industry, the GDP, they take all of those factors, and then that's what they use to determine the classification of a country. So the first type is developed. That's industrialized, or more economically developed, or some other names that are used. Developing is sometimes referred to as less developed. A developing country tends to have little or no modern technology, low life expectancy and literacy rates, and more agriculture than industry. Developing countries are working to improve their economies to help people live safe, healthy, successful lives. A developed country, on the other hand, is generally one with high life expectancy, high GDP, and a high literacy rate. A developed country is usually based on technology and industry rather than agriculture. The last classification is underdeveloped. These are also referred to as least developed. Underdeveloped countries tend to have little or no infrastructure, which means they have no buildings or roads or canals and things like that. And the majority of their work is agricultural. In an underdeveloped country, they usually have very low life expectancy and literacy rates, and you'll usually see extreme poverty. Underdeveloped countries are often affected by weak governments and natural disasters, which tend to keep them underdeveloped. So, now that we know about what helps to determine the type of economy a country has, it's time for the economic systems. Communist. A communist economy is a system where the government owns the property, sets the prices and wages, tells people what jobs they will do, and how much to produce. Sometimes this type of economy is called a command economy. So in a communist economy, the government makes all the decisions. A market economy. In a market economy, individuals make key economic decisions. They decide the price of the goods and how much of a product is produced through the law of supply and demand. Individuals own private property and decide what jobs they will have. So in a market economy, the individuals make the decisions. Now, a lot of times, most of your market economies are going to use the free enterprise system. And this system has 4 characteristics: little to no control of the market by the government, doing business with anyone you want, ownership of private property, and the ability to work to make a profit. This system is also known as capitalism. A traditional economy, people do the same job their parents did. Many people are simple farmers who grow just enough food to feed their families, and communities tend to only grow what they need locally. The terms subsistence farming and cottage industries are often used when referring to a traditional economy. Subsistence farming is just growing enough food for your family. Socialism. In this system of government, the government and private business both play a role in the lives of citizens. Some businesses are controlled by the government, others are controlled by private individuals. The government does provide health and welfare benefits. So that's a socialism type of economy. All right, so that's it. Make sure you have those notes. See you in class.